Welcome, everybody, to Weird Wednesday on BaloneyBrain.com. This is, of course, the host with the most, a recently sick John House or used toy. Joining me is Suburban Hobo, or Daryl House. How you doing, Daryl?
I'm doing great. I'm appreciating your beard. I mean, gee, you're right there in the ballpark, man. I was ragging on your brother Rick yesterday about why don't you grow a beard like John and me?
He can't really do the like he's struggling with the one he's got. So
such a girl.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, we got some good stuff going on this week. I'm not quite as edgy, but I like my stories a lot. I'm going to start off with the cops in New York. It appears that sliders are just as good as donuts. Two Brooklyn men are suing the New York Police Department for allegedly taking their White Castle sliders during an incident that occurred Halloween 2012 in Coney Island. In the suit, Danny Messonette and Kenneth Glover claimed they were approached by a group of officers that demanded they hand over a bag of White Castle hamburgers. When they refused, Messonette and Glover say they were struck with flashlights, handcuffed, and arrested. Sounds like Alice's Restaurant here all of a sudden. They were charged with obstructing government administration and disorderly conduct. The charges against them were eventually dropped. Imagine that. So the city law department declined to comment on the lawsuit in their report to the New York Daily News.
I would fight for my sliders.
You know, and then it's good cop, bad cop also.
A Michigan teacher made a poor choice by giving non-alcoholic beer to his fifth graders in a history lesson. The teacher, Ed Colito, I'm sorry, that was the superintendent, said that the students were at Hyatt Elementary were able to sample O'Doul's that had been brought to school by a student March 6th to represent ale common in the 1700s. That should have been my teacher. Yeah, let us drink beer.
And it was just a week before St. Patrick's Day, you know. I had a good St. Patty's.
Oh, me too.
Good. Lots of music. It was awesome. One point we had like three guys, three guitar players, three different folkies on stage at Mrs. Murphy's, and it was too much fun. Harmonies and three guitars, rocking.
So Mrs. Murphy's is an Italian restaurant?
Well, you know what? The Chef Iggy, does exceptionally well on Italian food, but on the other hand, the shepherd's pie this weekend and the corned beef and cabbage were to die for. Great stuff, but Chef Iggy's specialty really is Italian, so it's kind of a running joke between Marvelous Marlene, who's my favorite bartender over there. I've known Marlene for almost 40 years, so she's behind the stick, and I'm out there, and we just have a good time, and it was fun. So you ready for my story here?
Yes.
This one I like. This is the weirdest story of the day for me, anyway. A New York comedian who thought he was renting his apartment to a family through Airbnb, which I never heard of, came home to find an orgy. Ari Taman, 31 years old, says he rented his apartment for a weekend to David Carter, 32 years old, using the popular website Airbnb. Carter claimed on the site that he was looking for a place for his brother and sister-in-law to stay for the weekend while they were in town for a wedding. Taman came home to pick up his bags after dinner for his trip, and he found what was tweeted out by a guest. It said he was describing the event as a triple X freak fest, an orgy featuring overweight women and stuffed animals.
Wow. Sometimes you can't tell which is which.
Yeah, well, the guy he said it was bizarre. The worst part of the internet right there was in my apartment. Carter claims he did nothing wrong, but Taman says he was being evicted from his apartment. Airbnb says Carter's account has been removed, and they will reimburse Taman for any and all damage to his property. What about his reputation?
Wow. You know, that also brings up a couple of jokes that I'm probably not going to go into.
We would probably thank you for that.
Well, a Tennessee woman is accused of smashing her car into a church and stabbing her husband in the chest because she said the devil was in her. And also, really, when it comes right down to it, it was because her husband watched nothing but NASCAR. See, now, I knew this. I got to go to Vegas once on a plane full of NASCAR like fans, and And I actually could have attested to this. The
You know,
devil was in somebody.
I was never that NASCAR. It doesn't appeal to me. And you know, growing up in Middletown, Ohio, there's a track practically on every corner. I mean, that's the hotbed of the hot cars up there. But I got into music too early, I guess. I didn't get into cars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also because we love football here.
Yeah. We got the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins. Hey, how about this? This is a Miami story, as a matter of fact. And you know, cops. Sometimes you love them. Sometimes you hate them. And sometimes you just realize it's tough to be a cop sometimes. You get put in positions that are questionable, and that it's not an easy answer. That's the case right here. Former Florida police chief swallows evidence in court to protect the informant's identity.
Wow.
I think he did the right thing here. So Richard Maston, he's facing 2 weeks in jail on a contempt of court charge. Former police chief could be spending that time behind bars because he ate a piece of evidence during a court appearance Friday instead of letting the judge see it. Richard Maston of Miami-Dade Crime Stoppers ate a piece of paper with a tip that had information about a cocaine possession case instead of handing it over to Judge Victoria Brennan. Maston refused to reveal the tip because he wanted to protect the informant's identity. He says, this is a quote, "We promise the people who give us information to solve murders, serious violent crimes in this community, that they can call us with assurance they will remain anonymous and that nothing about them or their information would ever be compromised." These people could get killed if the word gets out that they're snitching here. So the case today started creeping into that, and the guy says, not going to happen on my watch, and I understood the consequences. So that's where that case was. Our cop, I think, did the stand-up thing. Even though he's taking a beating for it, it's wrong because he's protecting his informant guy. I like that.
Because
good cop.
The laws for protection of the people.
Of the people. Chris Christopherson. I haven't heard that song in years.
You got me that album.
Yeah, it was great. I think it's still my favorite Christopherson album.
Mine too. All right, now for the final story. This is actually from Your Tango, the Best Love Life blog. One man, basically they asked the question of, do cross-dressing dads make better fathers? And this just seemed weird enough that I had to, at what point does this even become a question?
Yeah. Where was this event taking place, they asked?
It was featured on the Huffington Post, but it's on Your Tango, the Love Mom blog. And like they actually go into a fairly lengthy, and this just struck me as bizarre. You know, I mean, certainly there are things that, I'm not necessarily suited for, like, pinning up a prom dress, but it really, at what point does that become, like, just regular fodder?
Yeah, really. Well, parenting is not easy, and some people think that it's just like falling off a log. It's really not, and so many people don't do it right. You need to teach kids respect.
Well, this
is a weird conversation we're having here.
You and I have talked this before. I have a kindergartner. Your grandkids are coming up. As I witness the school things.
And my kids are bright, well-educated, well-adjusted, successful women and mothers.
Nice.
I'm proud of my girls.
Well, as I go through most of the other kids at school, I see a lot of not kids that have kind of lost their way, but parents that have lost their way.
Yeah. Well, John, you know what? This isn't very funny. We need to move on here. We usually come up with a gangbuster closing on this. Are we ready to make our exit?
I think we are.
Okay, well, folks, thank you for joining us on Baloney Brain for perhaps the weirdest Wednesday ever. We thank you, and we will see you again next week. Have a great one. Thank you. Bye-bye.